Hey, what's going on, guys, and welcome back to the Short Haired Sisters. In this video, I'll be going over my March reads and what I read in March. I'm really excited to do this because I read some really good books in March, and I am very excited to show you guys my April TBR as well because I also have some really exciting books coming up. I am so sorry that I'm so late with this video. I have literally been packed the past couple weeks, and we're kind of getting the interior of our house repainted, so all of the furniture is kind of in disarray. So this is the first time that I've actually been able to sit down and record for you guys with a somewhat cohesive looking background. So I am sorry about that as well. Alrighty, so before I get started, I have a couple books on here that are Colleen Hoover books, and with Colleen Hoover books and other romance novels that I read, I highly recommend that you guys look up trigger warnings before you read these books, because some things could be really triggering to some people and not triggering to other people. To me personally, none of these books severely triggered me. I thought the plotline was good, and it is all just fiction. But I know that some of these topics that are discussed in these books can be triggering for some other people based off personal experience or other factors or other things that are involved. So I would just like to put out that disclaimer before I start this video, and now let's get started. The first book that I read in March was It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. I gave this book 5 stars, my bad. It was super good, and I absolutely loved the characters. I loved Atlas, I loved Ryle, I loved Lily. Actually, Ryle's okay, but I loved Atlas and I loved Lily, and I loved the backstory behind the characters. It was a really compelling and rich book to read, and I really enjoyed reading it. All Colleen Hoover books for me so far have kind of delivered on their promise. I would say that Colleen is a kind of spicy writer, if you will, so I would definitely not read these books if you're younger or if there's just other factors that are involved in these books that I don't necessarily would be appropriate for younger people, so there's also that as well. Next book that I read was The Layover by Lacey Walden, and I gave this book 3 stars. And I don't know why, but this book kind of fell short for me in the romance genre, just simply because I read a Colleen Hoover right before I read Lacey Walden's book. I loved The Layover, I loved the characters were great. It just wasn't as fast-paced or as romantic as I was expecting it to be. But that also could just be because I read a Colleen Hoover book, which is really fast-paced and really just like throwing it at you. And then I sat down and read like a more chill book, and I ended up giving it 3 stars just because of this, and I honestly may reread it in the future and see if I give it a higher rating. So next book I read is A Heart So Fierce and Broken, and that is the second book. I'm sorry if I'm looking over here, my laptop's over here with my Goodreads pulled up. If you guys don't know, Goodreads is what I use to track my books that I read and what I use to rate them and stuff, and I highly recommend it if you haven't tried it yet. But that's why I keep looking over here, is because that's where my books are listed that I read. Next book that I read is A Heart So Fierce and Broken, second book in the Cursebreaker series. I absolutely loved the first one. I gave it 5 stars. I thought it was so good, and I really hoped that the second book would kind of live up to the same hype, but it didn't necessarily do that for me. I gave it about 4 stars. I thought the plotline was good, and I still loved the characters from the first book, but it was just not as good as I was expecting it to be after coming off the momentum from the first book. The next book that I read was A Vow So Bold and Deadly, which is the third book in the Cursebreaker series. I ended up giving this book 4 stars as well. I really enjoyed the first book, and then I felt as though the second and third books kind of were like a step down for the characters or a step down for the plotline. I thought the third book was better than the second one, just a little bit, but it was really interesting to read the whole series, and I'm really glad that I finished it. It didn't connect as well with me as the first one did. The next book I read was Shatter Me, and I'm not even going to try to say the name of the author because I cannot pronounce that. But this book was really good. I really enjoyed it, and I still have to read the rest of the series, I'm definitely going to be continuing the series because I got told that the first and second book were kind of lackluster, but then as you get further into the series, it gets better and better. This book was kind of general dystopian for me, if you will. The government's in trouble, the government needs her, she's running away from the government, that type of stuff. I gave it 3 stars. I thought it was really fast-paced. I did think it kind of ended at like a somewhat weird point. It wasn't necessarily a cliffhanger, but it wasn't not a cliffhanger. I'm definitely going to continue the series and try to finish it because I really, really am excited, and I keep seeing all these things pop up on my For You page. Oh, this series is so good. Oh, this book is so good. I'm like, I definitely need to finish reading that. Next book I read was November 9th by Colleen Hoover. I gave this book 4 stars. This book is not as spicy as other Colleen Hoover books. I really, really enjoyed it. It was just not like my type of book. I mean, Fallon and Ben were great. The characters, great. Loved the characters. It was just kind of a fall short plotline. I thought Colleen Hoover was really innovative with the way that she's coming up with her book ideas because they're not general romance. But I just figured this book is okay. It didn't necessarily have me dying to read it, but it didn't have me, I don't want to read this at all. So I ended up giving it 4 stars in the end. And the last book that I read in March was It Starts With Us by Colleen Hoover. This is the second book, and it comes right after It Ends With Us. I gave this book 4 stars. I thought it was really, really good, but also I would look up trigger warnings because It Starts With Us and It Ends With Us both contain some not the best content, if you will. I gave this book 4 stars. I didn't think it was as good as the first one, but I was really glad to have a follow-up with those characters. And that is it for my March book wrap-up, if you will. And then now I'm going to be going into the books that I'm wanting to read in April. So one of the books that I want to read in April, that I'm actually starting to read, is Better Than the Movies. Haley Pham raves about this book all the time on her channel, and I finally got a hold of it, and I am so excited to read it. It's gonna be interesting. I'm about 60% through, I would say. It's pretty good so far, but it also has nothing that's like necessarily compelling me to read it, if you will. And then I'm also picking up a couple of Colleen Hoover books at the library tomorrow, so I will also probably be reading Colleen Hoover. And I really hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'm so sorry that it's late. It has just been craziness in my house, and then soon we're going to be getting our carpet redone in about 2 weeks. So I'll see you the next time I'm able to post for you guys. I'm going to try to do it as much as possible. And I really just hope you guys enjoy this video, and I hope you guys have a great Easter if you celebrate Easter, because I understand that's tomorrow. And I just really hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you guys the next time I see you. Bye!